Hi, I'm Michelle Peterson, and this is my reflection of the case study. For Category 1, what do we know? After reading the situation in the case, we know that Ms. Tate teaches rigorous classes using a very serious approach during her instruction, which causes high levels of stress and workload to the students. We also know that the principal, Dr. Smith, has discussed different teaching methods with Ms. Tate to help build relationships with her students. The third thing that we know is that an unidentified email was sent containing a link to a Facebook page that people had posted about wanting Miss Tate to disappear. The last thing that we know is Dr. Smith is very respected and takes pride in running his prestigious school the way that he does. There are some facts that we need to know to come to a resolution. We need to know, one, who created the Facebook page. We need to know also if the comments were truthful or just a way to scare Miss Tate. We also need to know if Miss Tate had taken the recommendations from Dr. Smith's earlier conversations on building relationships with her students seriously. We need to know if Miss Tate has good intentions when it comes to teaching students, because that's the most important. Using what we know and what we need to know, the two problems that pertain to this case are that a Facebook page has been created that contains information regarding harm being done to Miss Tate. Also, Miss Tate has not built a positive rapport with her students. Plan of action. So first and foremost, as building leader, Dr. Smith needs to reach out to the superintendent and inform them of the situation, also providing them with a hard copy of the email and comments on the Facebook page that he had taken previously the night before. Dr. Smith needs to also email the district technologist informing him that they need to set up a meeting immediately to discuss this situation. When Dr. Smith arrives at work the next day, he needs to reach out again to the technologist and set up a face-to-face meeting. Whether it be via phone or face-to-face, it's up to them. It just needs to be done immediately. If the superintendent or any district attorney, any other people like that would like to be present for the upcoming meetings, Dr. Smith needs to ensure that this is granted. Another step in the plan of action would be that the technologist needs to begin researching and figuring out who wrote these things and who created the Facebook page. Then, Dr. Smith needs to be sure that he checks in with Miss Tate as soon as she arrives to school the next day. It's important that students feel safe and comfortable in schools, but it's also important that Miss Tate feels that way, because she did not feel comfortable even staying home alone the night before, so he needs to make sure she is prepared to teach for the day. Dr. Smith also needs to have a meeting with William Hall regarding the Facebook page, because that is who Miss Tate feels could have created the page. He needs to make sure that during these meetings with anyone that he is remaining neutral and not to blame or make accusations. He needs to simply get the facts, and that's it. If William doesn't confess to creating the Facebook page, then he needs to pull the facts that were given, and other students need to be drawn in to gain additional information about the page and the comments regarding doing harm to Miss Tate. Then, following the meeting with William Hall, Dr. Smith needs to contact his parents immediately. It is important that they be notified what is going on and that Miss Tate believes that their son could have created the page. They may have information that they can provide to help with the situation. If they choose to set up a meeting with administration, their wish shall be granted, and everyone that chooses to be there will need to be there. It is important that Dr. Smith informs the Hall family that their son is not being blamed for this, but that the school is looking into it, because what had happened is not okay. So we just are pulling the facts as of right now, and as soon as we know more information, we will contact them. Then Dr. Smith needs to have an additional conversation with Miss Tate about her teaching style. He needs to ensure that she is following the expectations that have been set so highly for the high school. He also needs to ensure she has good intentions and believes all students in her classes can be successful. All of these things are important because we know that Miss Tate is, and parents and students have complained that Miss Tate has rigorous classes with high workloads and high stress levels. So we need to make sure she is doing what's best in the interest of the students. Next, if the technologist can locate who created and posted on the Facebook page, those conversations will need to be had with those parties as well as consequences handed out. When it comes to resolving the issue and promoting the academic success and personal well-being of every student, it's important that Ms. Tate attends trainings about building relationships within the classroom. The parents and students had stated again that the workload and stress levels are simply too high for students. So Ms. Tate needs to stay true to who she is, but she also needs to make sure she is, again, looking in the best interest of the students. From those trainings, the next thing that Ms. Tate and Dr. Smith need to do is that she's taking the training seriously and that she's actually implementing these new strategies. Since it's been stated that Dr. Smith has had these conversations with her already, it could be assumed that she's not taking it seriously and she's not changing up some of her teaching styles. So we need to make sure that she's attempting and really trying to build that rapport with her students. Lastly, when promoting the academic success and personal well-being of every student, Dr. Smith needs to ensure that the students are feeling safe and comfortable when they're in Ms. Tate's room. He needs to do this by frequent drop-ins in the classroom and visiting with the students and making sure that they are safe in her classroom. With the high levels of stress that they are experiencing, you can assume that the students are not feeling comfortable, and that makes it very hard to learn. So as the educational leader, as I was reflecting, I kept thinking in my head, did Ms. Tate really take that first conversation about the implementations of the new strategy seriously? Does Ms. Tate have the students' best interest in mind when she's creating these lessons since the workloads are so high? Is that really the intent that she's trying to do? Also, does Ms. Tate hold up to the standards that have been set for the high school? And then lastly, I kept thinking, what is happening behind Ms. Tate's closed doors that can lead to this serious of an incident to occur? There must be more behind the story, and these students must be feeling all sorts of emotions in order for them to go to high levels like they have. As the educational leader, I was feeling really let down by my students because this is not how our school raises our children to act. I was feeling discouraged that maybe I didn't pick the best candidate for the job 2 years ago like I had thought I had. I was also feeling sorry for Ms. Tate and that she has to be going through this alone and by herself. And lastly, I was feeling sorry for my students that they had such hatred built up towards a staff member that they would create a page that discussed doing harm to Ms. Tate. But through all of this, I was valuing the fact that every student in my school matters, and I want them to know that. I was also valuing that my students are standing up for themselves in an area that I may not have given the necessary attention to. Whether they did it in an appropriate manner or not, they were standing up for themselves. And I was also valuing that all of the people that I have on my team, that they're going to be able to help resolve this issue peacefully while our school is still able to maintain the positive reputation that it already does. So some of the unresolved issues with this case are that we're still unsure of who created the Facebook page. We do not know if Ms. Tate has good intentions when teaching our future generations. We do not know if the intent was to scare Ms. Tate or if actual harm was intended. And Dr. Smith does not know if Ms. Tate will attempt to adjust her teaching style in order to build a rapport with her students. These are all things that will need constant follow-up. So when reflecting on Standard 5, I promote the success of every student by acting with integrity because, as building leader, I heard all sides of the story without pressing blame or passing judgment on anyone. I honored the Hall family by informing them of the situation immediately, letting them know that they are involved in this as well. And I also trusted Miss Tate and followed up with the students that she felt could have done this, and immediately to help allow her to feel safe at home. So I called in William right away and went from the steps from there. I promoted the success of every student by acting with fairness because I took the parents' concerns about Miss Tate's workload and stress levels from the beginning. I knew that they had these. I'd already had the conversations with Miss Tate, so I was treating everyone fairly by making sure I was addressing every issue. I was also fair with Miss Tate because I worked to help her become a better educator through the implementation of new strategies instead of punishing her for what the parents and students had come to me about. I also listened to all sides of the story and only wrote down the facts. I was acting in an ethical manner because I listened to what William Hall had to say about the Facebook page instead of instantly giving him consequences. I took the parents' considerations about Miss Tate seriously and worked on helping her build relationships. And I again only took facts about the situation and did not let feelings sway my final resolution. So the standards that link back to this entire case study outside of Standard 5 would be under MOS Function 3, candidates understand and can promote school-based policies and procedures that protect the welfare and safety of students and staff. So with that being said, they will develop a comprehensive plan for providing school staff, students, and visitors with a safe and secure school building environment. I said throughout this whole thing how important it was that not only did the students feel safe, but also that Miss Tate felt safe. So it's an important, as building leader, that everyone is feeling safe within the school in order to make it a successful school. So if they were feeling unsafe, we are probably going to get unsuccessful learning environments, and that's not going to match up to the standards set for the school. The last standard that I linked with this is that the education leader will adapt leadership strategies and practices to address emerging school issues. We know the high levels of stress. We know the high levels of workloads were too much on the students and parents were complaining. So it is important that as the building leader that we are working as a team, pulling everyone involved, staff, parents, everyone, to build these strategies that will help our teachers make the best learning situation for every child. So that's the ending.